Good morning. Doing devotion from in the house this morning. As you can tell, that is a little bit different than being out in my wood shop. And starting on my computer is always a little bit different than my phone too, for getting everything started going for the devotion. Today we look at Ezekiel 47 and 48. We finished this book, and chapter 47. It begins with, "Then he brought me back out to the door of the temple." And this he goes all the way back to chapter 40, when, the Lord appeared to Ezekiel. And I'm trying to just go back there real quick. It was in the 25th year of exile, of captivity, that, that the Lord was upon me. He took me into the land of Israel, set me on a high hill, and he sat there, and there was an appearance of a man whose appearance was like the appearance of bronze. So this man, this figure who appeared as a man, is the same he that is now still here in chapter 47. This is quite a long visionary time in Ezekiel's life that way. But he brought me back to the temple, and there was, it says, water flowing from under the threshold, from the front of the temple facing east, and it was flowing out, south of the altar. And he led me around the outside of the gate and found the water running there again too. And then they went other places, and he measured 1,000 cubits, and he brought me in. The water was up to my ankles, and another 1,000 cubits it was up to his knees, and another 1,000 cubits it was at his waist, and another 1,000 cubits, and it was a river that he could not cross. So this water flowing out became, just like a river would. That begins as a small trickle of water, and then other tributaries come in, and other waters come, and it gets to be a rapid and roaring river. And we have evidence of rivers like that in many places, in the world. And the water flows, into an ocean or into a lake or something that way. And this water ended up flowing into the Dead Sea. And, the Dead Sea salt content was high enough that, fish couldn't live in it. But where this water flowed into the Dead Sea, there was enough fresh water that the fish could live, and the people could make a living there, fishing and catching the fish. And it says, their fish will be of the same kinds of the great sea, exceedingly many, will be in this Dead Sea. But the swamps and the marshes will not be healed; they will still be salt. So where the water flows in will be good water, but as it goes further out into the Dead Sea, it will remain, water that, fish cannot live in that way. But also along this river is, along the banks of the river will grow all kinds of trees used for food. It says their leaves will not wither, their fruit will not fail. They will bear fruit every month because the water flows from the sanctuary. So this is water that, that God is providing, coming from this sanctuary that has been built. And when I was out in the shop the other day, I mentioned it would be nice to have a picture of, the temple complex. And I don't know, you won't be able to see it, but in this Bible, it has a picture of that temple complex, so that, it's a little easier to get a picture in your head of how the temple is set, and how the walls are made, and all of these places along the edge where the sacrifices were done and everything. And this river that flows out of the temple then is a place of life, a place of sustenance for the people. And then starting in verse 13, it talks about the borders of the land that will belong to the people of Israel. And it spells it out, from the Great Sea by the road here to there and there and back and forth. And again, a map is helpful in figuring that out. And this Bible has a map of the way it would look. And I know that you can't see that picture that way, but as we read through this, it talks about the borders, and on the map, well, then they've got those bordering places put in there and identified, and so you can get a picture of Ezekiel's vision of this restored land of Israel. And as we read through, then into chapter 48, it talks about the division of these lands, and it's the 12 tribes of Israel. Well, 11 tribes get land. The Levites are in the temple area. They don't get land that way. But the land is divided, and it's just so much land from the north, and it goes from east to west, for this tribe and that tribe. And so it's just almost like a ladder coming down. You could say, you could see the rungs, you could see the lines across dividing the different lands for the different tribes of Israel, the different sons of Jacob that way. And there will be a portion in the middle that will be set apart for the Lord, and this is, I would guess, is in the area of Jerusalem, in the middle. I mean, I'm not real sure about that, but in this map that's in my book, it's got, the names of the tribes, and then, between Judah and Benjamin is Jerusalem. And I don't know if that's halfway down or not, but it's divided out so that each group of people has its area, where it would live. And why I've never really understood why the tribes were basically separated that way. I shouldn't say tribes, the sons, the groups of people that way, but it was always kind of separate. And even previous to this, previous to the fall of Israel, when they first settled, it was, this son got this land and this son got that land, and so it was divided out. I guess the way an inheritance would be divided out, between children that way and stuff too. But why it was such, definite lines that way, it just always seemed kind of strange to me, because I mean, and within these lands, and it wasn't just the Israelites that were there, but the Gentiles that lived in that area also then were to be considered part of the tribe. They were no longer foreigners, but they were, part of the community. And I think that's one of the things that we look at today in our world, that, we are all community. Although within communities there are, different units and different cliques and everything. And, this area of town might be whatever it may be in some of the bigger cities anyway. Out here where I live, towns are small enough that they're not really divided up that way. It's all, everybody knows everybody, and everybody knows everybody for a large area. And it's, I think, one of the blessings of being a rural people is that we interact with others so much more. And sometimes in the big city you don't really even know your neighbors, or just a few people. But and so in the land here, people knew each other, and they were all united together. And Ezekiel, the book of ends, starting at verse 30, it's the gates of the city and the city's name. And it talks about, there are exits to the city. On the north side, it measures 4,500 cubits. That's the size of the north side. And there will be 3 gates, and, one for Reuben, one for Judah, and one for Levi. And on the east side, there's 3 gates, one for each, the tribes. And then, there's gates around, all the way around. And says, verse 35 ends with, all the way around shall be 18,000 cubits, and the name of the city from that day shall be, the Lord is there. The Lord is there. And it's just that reminder that no matter where we are, God is with us. God's watching over. God knows who we are. And so the city here with the temple and everything is where people came to see God. But not only was, God wasn't only there, God was everywhere, just as he is today. So tomorrow we'll begin the book of Daniel. And it's always interesting to read the book of Daniel.